And the key thing to focus on here is that our economy is well underpinned across a whole range of sectors, exports, good commodity prices, etc. And the labour market is very strong. Wages growth is going to accelerate. People are going to feel higher job security. And that sort of thing is very important when it comes to people's feelings about their willingness to purchase a house. Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome to 2022. Things have certainly started out fairly interesting when it comes to the housing market around New Zealand. We had over calendar 2020 average house prices around the country increase about 18%. Last year, maybe around about 25% or so. Some places like Canterbury were actually up over 35%. This year, I think we can look at a far, far slower pace of increase in house prices. And if I recall rightly, in the commentary I was delivering just the few weeks leading into Christmas, I was running through some of the reasons why things won't be quite so ballistic this year. And so that's what I'm going to do again, essentially, because, well, frankly, we haven't spoken for 3 or 4 weeks. So the first thing to note is that we've just seen around the middle of last year the fastest pace of increase in fixed mortgage rates since those products appeared in the early 1990s. So that's going to knock back the ability to purchase for a reasonable number of people out there. Secondly, of course, we have now the widely recognised credit crunch underway, which I've been speaking about for the past 2 to 3 months. We've even got the government trying to initiate with the private sector a bit of a review of some of the legislation. What it adds up to is that a lot of people simply cannot make a house purchase because they cannot get a mortgage out of a financial institution, or at least a bank at the moment. So that's definitely a negative factor out there. The net annual migration flows for New Zealand are negative. We lost about 2,000 people overall in the past year. So that's another sort of restraining factor out there. And on top of that, we've got soon the borders opening up. So some people who have been trying to buy a house because they can't travel, they're going to start switching their funding, their money back to travelling overseas. Soon, one hopes, once we get past the Omicron wave, whenever that gets underway. And that'll drag some of the heat out of the housing market. We've also, of course, got a booming supply underway, about 48,500 consents issued for new dwellings to be built over the past year. Not all of those dwellings are going to be built, but nevertheless, it is a supply boom out there. Now, some people are going to look at that and think, oh my goodness, that means prices are going to fall. Well, certainly I expect in some parts of New Zealand, there will be some small price declines, but we're not looking at anything approaching the global financial crisis. And for most of the country, I still expect prices to go up. And the key thing to focus on here is that our economy is well underpinned across a whole range of sectors, exports, good commodity prices, etc. And the labour market is very strong. Wages growth is going to accelerate. People are going to feel higher job security. And that sort of thing is very important when it comes to people's feelings about their willingness to purchase a house. And also when it comes to prices, construction costs are still going to rise again this year, I'd suggest. We've also got about 165,000 migrants are going to be able to become permanent residents this year, so maybe give thoughts by themselves to purchasing a property. And of course, there's still quite a backlog of buyers. So look, the frenzy to a great extent has already gone out of the market. I could see that from about 5-6 weeks ahead of the end of last year, and I don't think the frenzy is going to come back for quite some time. So overall, I think prices relatively flat this year. The good news for home buyers is that listings at the end of December were already 30% ahead of a year earlier, and I anticipate a lot more growth in the availability of housing stock this year. So if you can get a mortgage, it's a good time to be a buyer. Don't expect the prices are going to go back to where they were in the past pre-COVID or anything, but the frenzy, definitely we've seen a backing off there. All the best.